Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I really appreciate you taking the time to get together and have this conversation to share with our supporters. As we're in the midst of this really important leadership transition, I think it's really important that we reflect back on just kind of where the organization has been and also talk about where the organization is going under your leadership. So I'm really excited to have the chance to dive in.
Absolutely. Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you this morning to dive into these questions. Can you tell us some insight about your journey as executive director here at Palmer Scholars?
Oh, my journey with Palmer Scholars has been pretty long, and it was even before taking over as executive director. You know, as folks listening know, I joined the organization first in 2014 as a program director. At that point in time, we were very, very small. It was just myself and the executive director, who had actually been by herself for a year running the organization with a few volunteers before I took over. At that point in time, we were in the midst of a really important transition. That was when we shifted to selecting our legacy scholars as juniors in high school rather than seniors in high school. And we made a lot of improvements to our training curriculum and our mentor program and a lot of things like that. I ended up leaving the organization in 2016, but I like to say I never really left because I became a board member and a mentor, and I actually stuck around as a board member all the way up until I took over as ED. We had a board meeting on Wednesday. My first day was on Thursday, interestingly enough. The last 5 years have been quite a journey. I think there's been a lot that has happened at the organization that's been really positive. There's been a lot of challenges as well, but I think that we've really been able to weather the storm and come out on the other side a much stronger organization in a much different place than we were when I took over 5 years ago. At that time, we had a team of four and an organizational budget of just over $600,000. You heard me mention, the legacy program before. Legacy program wasn't a thing. It was just Palmer Scholars. Legacy came about after we introduced Pathways, which was followed by the Palmer Connections platform and this Fit for Me modality that we're expanding at the moment. But that team of four and that budget of roughly 600,000 is now a team of 13 and a budget of 1.9 million, and one program, now four, bringing in 25 or so new students a year. Now we're serving on average 225, 250 students a year across our four programs. So the one word that comes to mind for me when I think about the past few years at Palmer is growth, a tremendous amount of growth, and gray hair as well that came along with it.
Yeah, you earned it. You've earned the grays, you've earned the silver hairs. But tell us about a little bit of what have been some of those fantastic failures and what have been some of your greatest accomplishments during your tenure as executive director?
Yeah, starting off fantastic failures, I think, as you go about trying to launch something new, there's always moments where you step back and think, okay, maybe I should have approached that a slightly different way. Maybe we could have put a little bit more into the planning phase before we move straight to implementation. I think I'll speak about one thing that had the potential actually to be a fantastic failure, but flip it and show it as one of our biggest successes. When we initially launched the Palmer Pathways Initiative in 2020, it had a lot of promise. A lot of people were really interested in the program, really wanting to get behind it and support it. It was a very needed initiative for this community that really did not have any opportunities for young adults between 18 and 24 to get reconnected to opportunities. Like if you didn't graduate high school and go immediately into a college track, you're kind of lost and floundering in this community with not a ton of support to really help you get back on track. When we introduced Pathways in the beginning, it was great, but as I mentioned, it was 2020. We had our orientation about 15 days before the pandemic shut everything down. So that first cohort, we actually had to pivot, do the entire program virtually, which is a little bit difficult when you're trying to have a construction pre-apprenticeship program. There's no building a tiny house that happens over Zoom. You're not learning the basics of power tools and occupational safety in a virtual classroom. It's just difficult to do. And the funding for that program actually went away overnight because COVID presented a bunch of challenges and our funders needed to redirect their energy. And so that was really a time where the program almost went away. And I got in front of the board a month into a pandemic. Our reserves had tanked by about 30% and the funding prospects were bleak at best. And I said, look, I don't know where I'm going to find the money to keep Christina, who was the director that helped me build that program up. I don't know where I'm going to find the money, but I'm going to find it. Give me 6 months. And that next year's fiscal budget, I budgeted for Christina's position for only 6 months. But as you know, she stayed for much longer than that, and you were able to come in and take over that role a little bit later. So what started out as a really good idea with minimal funding, the funding went away, has now grown into an initiative that is a primary driver for our budget. I mentioned a $1.9 million budget a second ago. About $800,000 to $900,000 of that is this program that's only been in existence for 4 years now.
Yeah,
So both a
that's
fantastic
amazing.
failure
And a
potential, but a
success.
success. Yeah.
Absolutely. What are some other successes, like with the Legacy program or Palmer Connections, that
Yeah.
also came out of the time during COVID? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we started to do a little bit differently before COVID. And then when COVID came around, we realized there's some efficiencies that we can really take advantage of and even carry over into this time post-pandemic. If we can say that we're in a post-pandemic, it always kind of feels like we're still in that space.
Yes.
But we made some really significant changes to the mentoring program, and we started those changes pre-pandemic. But once we shifted and we had a need to provide high-quality virtual mentoring services, we actually worked with a company called People Grove to launch the Palmer Connections platform, which enabled us to really add some additional structure and quality and just some oomph to the mentoring program that just needed a little bit of fresh air breathed into it. But taking that online with this virtual mentoring platform just created additional efficiencies around the mentor matching process, additional opportunities for us to track different metrics related to the match itself. And so that was a really important change that was only strengthened by the introduction of this platform that honestly, absent COVID, we may not have gone that direction at all. Definitely not at that point in time. So that was a really big change and a significant improvement for the program. Alongside that, we made, changes to the way that we train our young people, the information that we're giving them. Previously, there had been a lack of transparency around the amount that folks were going to be expecting each year in their scholarship. We got rid of that lack of transparency, locking in a particular amount that folks were going to be able to count on every year, introduced stipends and book supports and other ancillary supports. But then we also put together kind of a request for additional funding process and an emergency funding request process, knowing that sometimes our scholars are going to encounter additional challenges in any given year, and we need to be able to be responsive to that and make sure that that challenge isn't something that actually takes them off of their path to graduation.
That's an amazing pathway to the Legacy scholarship. Speaking about legacy, what is it that you would love for your legacy to be in the Palmer story?
It's interesting you phrase the question that way, because I think the legacy that I would like to have is that I helped to make sure that the story was being told right. I think over the course of our history, there's been a lot of downplaying and overshadowing of the impact of our other founder, Alfred Davis. The main founder, Merle Palmer, our namesake, is the only one who has really been formally attached to the organization. And I think the role that Reverend Davis played in the early days of the org has been significantly downplayed in terms of even giving Merle the credibility that he needed to be able to step into the Black community and be viewed as someone who could be trusted and taken seriously. I've made it a point of mine to go back and kind of retell that history correctly. So if you take a look at our website now, you will see our co-founders, but also including their wives there as well, recognizing the sacrifices that these women made, both directly alongside their husbands, but also indirectly in giving up that time and access to their husbands so they could be out in the community doing this work. I think it's really important to recognize these women as well. But it's not just the history of how we talked about things in the past, it's how we talk about things in the present. It's the words that we use when we're referring to our scholars. It's moving away from labels like low income and underrepresented, and shifting things like our tagline that used to be, creating hope and opportunity through education. Nothing wrong at all, obviously, with centering education and, positing hope as this really important thing that's necessary in order for you to really move forward. But to position ourselves as the creators of that is to really place ourselves as the saviors. And the savioristic mentality that's really pervasive in the nonprofit sector was very much present here at Palmer Scholars. And I think now it is not. And in large part because of just the intentionality we've had with shifting the language that we use to refer to the work that we're doing, and we're talking about the students, and we're talking to the students about how we view them and how we, most importantly, view ourselves. We are really stewards of their hopes and dreams. We're not creating that hope for them. We're not creating that opportunity for them. We're walking alongside them and helping them identify barriers and obstacles along the way and figure out strategies and identify resources to overcome and navigate those. But the journey is theirs. We just get to walk alongside them, and that's a blessing that we get to fill that really critical role, but it's their work.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about the mentorship program, right? I'll probably date myself, but back in the day, we didn't have Siri to tell us directions or GPS. And so it's really a roadmap where we're looking as individuals on that roadmap to find the pathway. But, as the leaders in an organization, we're not only leading the scholars to those new opportunities, but we're also building up our team members and our staff.
Yeah.
Tell me about your dream team.
Oh man, interestingly enough, we pretty much have the dream team right now. We're in my opinion, Palmer Scholars is about a 15-person, $2 million adjusting for inflation organization. We could aspire to be this $10 million a year, $100 million a year behemoth that's serving thousands and thousands of young people. But I think when you do that, you lose some of what makes Palmer unique. You lose that personal touch, that ability to take a real individualized approach to supporting young people and meeting them where they are and helping them get to where they want to be. And so the team that we have right now is amazing, right? The team that we have right now gets it, understands the importance of approaching this work with the sensitivity that it requires, the intentionality that it requires. And frankly, you are a huge part of that dream team that's been built up, and a large part of why I've had the confidence to be ready to step away from an organization that means so much to me, maybe ahead of when I had originally planned, because I recognize, okay, Denise Nicole's been able to come in, and having started originally on the Pathways team and had some really good ideas and had a dream team of your own in mind that you wanted to bring to the table. And it's just it's a really great feeling as a leader to know that I can step back and empower you to build your dream team, because ultimately it was really shaping the current organization as we know it. So you went from building up that dream team on the Pathways side to then shifting into this deputy director role in June. And we've made a couple more appointments over the past few months. And I don't know, I know we've had conversations about how we can just feel this palpable change in the culture of the organization and just how it feels to be present in the office and engaging with the team. I think the dream team is the team that we have now. We could use a few more folks to just come in and make sure that that everyone is getting the level of service that they need, that we're not spread too thin, and that we can continue to bring in the funds that we need to keep our lights on, right, and grow the organization. But I really think that the dream team is here, and I think that I'm really excited to be passing the torch over to you to be coaching that new dream team. So, yeah, if I could, I want to just ask you now at this point, tell me a little bit about kind of your approach to leadership and how you see your leadership impacting the organizational culture and moving things forward.
Absolutely, that's a great question. I'm an inspirational influencer, whether I'm coaching, my team to reach their professional development goals, or really just cultivating their intuition of what they already know what to do. Some of this stuff you don't learn in textbooks. Some of it you learn from the school of life in the same way our scholars are learning. Mm-hmm. And so just really cultivating them to show up as themselves, creating an atmosphere, turning really Palmer Scholars, the home, into a home feeling where everybody feels like they belong and they can come be their true selves. My leadership is always, come talk to me. If you're struggling, talk to me. There's not an issue that I'm not willing to get in the trenches with you and work through. If we have deadlines, everybody's pulling up together to make sure that we're meeting those deadlines. Mm-hmm. And I think our small but mighty team has grown drastically from being able to have a leader that is excited for the work, and it's okay to fail. You're gonna fall, don't stay there. We're gonna get back up, and let's just keep grinding and keep making sure that our scholars know that you are showing up for them in the way that they feel safe enough to be able to share those vulnerabilities with, because reducing barriers comes with understanding what their vulnerabilities are and how to navigate them to their success, whatever that success may look like. Yeah. And so it's the same thing with our internal work. Mental wellness and mental health, like the Mental Health Fridays. I remember when you did the organizational survey to find out, how will this hit with our staff? Like, are they going to embrace it? Will they be excited for it? But now they're like, this is something we need, and we're so grateful. Yeah. I feel like that showed them that we care about them as humans and not just another worker. Mm-hmm. And they come and they bring so much passion to the work that we do.
Yeah, no, that's real. So initially you asked me about some of the things that have happened over the past 5 years and all of the growth and expansion and things. How do you see yourself moving things forward? And how do you see yourself kind of building on that foundation that we've established in these past few years?
I think it's an awesome opportunity for us to. We did an organizational root cause analysis for some of the performance gaps or opportunity gaps that we have. And so starting there, starting to, create the systems that make us flow, because as we're growing, our scale is a lot larger. Our scope of work is a lot larger. And so, as you mentioned earlier, bringing on, making Palmer Scholars an employer of choice, where people are like, Palmer Scholars, I've heard about it. I would love to come work at this organization and not just work there, but be grounded and rooted, like set your roots here. And it's going to be a training ground for some folks. Like we do amazing work, and nonprofit work is hard work, which gets heavy at times. So one of my main priorities is making sure that my team has time to decompress, doing staff retreats that are more than strategic planning, but really having that strategic plan, but really knowing that we're mastering our mindsets and who we are so we can be better leaders. I'm always going to say this, shameless plug, a brick and mortar Palmer Scholars building, so that way we have that home where scholars can come back to, where we're able to be that young adult hub where they can feel themselves, they can be creative, they can look at different opportunities. But if you have a space that is sterile, or a young person feels like they're an afterthought, it's hard to thrive in those environments.
That's real.
But giving them a space where they can, job search, be artists and write poetry, or, just serve the community in a different way. Civic engagement is another one. We do great work at Palmer Scholars, but telling our story better, being in the community. I would love to see feeding programs that are feeding our neighbors who are unhoused. We can be, lifting up our scholars, lifting up our employees, but also lifting up a unity for our community.
Yeah, I love that. Are there any specific kind of projects that we've worked on, that we've started up to this point, that you're just really excited to move forward with?
Yeah, the Fit for Me initiative. Fit for Me, sometimes you don't know what your path is going to be, or sometimes you're just like, I need some support. I need some thought partnership on what's the next move. And so making our next move the best move for our scholars and for our staff, I think is what I'm most excited about, being able to bring that platform to life, because there's so many people in our community that are entrepreneurs. We have young adults that have dreams and goals and visions inside of them that don't fit into the box of workforce development, but developing them as strong-minded individuals that are able to be resilient when lifes, because it's going to happen. How do you pick up those pieces and run with it? And really deepening those partnerships that are, I'm excited to work deeper with Workforce Central and the career teams and Clover Park Technical College to really have that wraparound service, but give exposure. You can fake it till you make it, or you can dream it until you be it. If you don't see it, how can you become it? And so that's what I'm looking forward to, is like more exposure to opportunity.
I really have appreciated kind of some recent conversations that we've had as you talked about the Fit for Me, and really being like, this is a service modality that we have, but it really is part of what I see is kind of your philosophy for the organization. Like even staff, it should be a good fit for you. Board members, it should be a good fit for you. And so I really like that thing I like that idea of kind of starting internally, starting with our house, turning it into a home, making sure it's a good fit for everyone, while we're helping young people figure out what's the best fit for them. I love that energy.
Absolutely. And we started it with the reorganization. We're rebranding from the inside out.
Absolutely.
And that was an intentional move that we made to make sure that the staff can just show up as their true authentic selves, because our young adults are waiting for not the watered down version, because some of us had to code switch to feel safe in some of these environments. That's of the past. The future is really speaking your authentic truth, because that young person is going to identify with you and they're waiting to hear your voice. And our employees' voices matter, and that's why we did the culture surveys and almost like a listening tour. What are behaviors that we should stop, and what are ones that we can start? And there's great information came out of that root cause analysis that we did.
Yeah, for sure. What are you most excited about in taking over? And conversely, what do you think you are maybe a little bit nervous about?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm most excited to work with our board of directors and really level up their and hear their thought partnership on which attributes they want to bring to the table and like really collaborate with them with some of the ideas that I have. What I'm nervous or apprehensive about, it's happening fast.
Yeah.
You know, they say if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. But, you know, I'm grateful that when I came on board, you were the leader that my dreams were heard. And I was like, this is a vision that I have. And you're like, go run the play. Being that type of leader that believes in their team and knows that I don't have all the answers. You know, I'm the coach.
Yeah.
And I just want to support my team to be the best versions of themselves. We hired them to run the programs, you know, and so to watch our programs evolve over time. And it's only been a year since I've been here. Yeah. And it feels like we jumped through a portal because it went by really fast. But just continuously growing with our partners, I think that's another thing that I'm most excited about is deepening those relationships and being strategic on how we elevate not only our program, but our community as well.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you mentioning the timeline. Obviously, it's a little bit more accelerated than we originally envisioned, but I think, as I mentioned before, I mean, you coming on and really taking ownership of the Pathways program and breathing new life into it, and then just what I was able to see in you as a leader in general and how you were showing up for your peers and how you were just showing up and really championing the mission of Palmer Scholars. That's the reason why I had that confidence to have that conversation with you and say, look, I'd like to push you into this deputy director role here in June. And immediately thereafter, having conversations around you being my personal succession plan, you know, getting in front of the board and saying, look, I know this is the one position here I can't hire, but I want you to know this is the person that I want to hire. And that's because of the energy that you've brought to the position, the forward thinking orientation that you have to where it's like, yeah, we can sit and we can reflect and talk about what has happened up to this point. Okay, friend, but how do we move forward from here? And that's the energy that we need to move this thing forward. I wasn't necessarily anticipating leaving so quickly. I say quickly, but it hasn't really been quickly. I mean, I've been at the helm for 5 years, but I've really been with the organization for the past decade. And it's been a lot. I've given a lot of myself to the work. And I think I've really just been in this space for a little while now of figuring out, okay, what is going to be a responsible transition out?
Right.
How can I leave this organization that's still very near and dear to my heart and make sure that it's in good hands? And I feel like I'm doing that. I think I'm also really excited by just the fact that we have a good camaraderie and good kind of just ability to work together. And I'm looking forward to working with you in the capacity of a coach in these months moving forward. Just to make sure you've got everything that you need and just so I can pass off the knowledge that originally would have been being passed off over a year or so of you being in that second seat. But you didn't need that year of preparation to be ready for the second seat. But I still am glad that I'm going to be able to hang around and give you some additional insight and perspective, just having been in your particular seat for a few years. But I couldn't have found a better successor in my mind. It's interesting because when I brought Christina on to run the Pathways program, she mentioned to me, you know what, I have somebody in mind to run this program for you later on. And that was you. Lo and behold, here you are now about to run the entire organization just a little bit later. So it's funny how those things all work out full circle.
Yeah, I remember interviewing with Christina in 2019 because I've worked my whole career to come back to Pierce County and give back to the community where I live. Yeah. And, you know, it was 20 years ago that Reverend Al Davis hired me to work in his preschool in the Shalishan. And so back then it was a little bit different, but when you have little humans that look up to you and say, Miss Denise, I'm so excited to see you. That's a huge responsibility.
It is.
Because back then I was still that 17-year-old that was not really guided, but really figuring out life on my own. That's why I said the Fit for Me model is a model that is from leadership all the way down because it's necessary. So to go from working in his child care center to now being able to be a part of that legacy that he left for us all in this community, it's an honor and it's a privilege. And I'm very excited. And I think the reason why I'm not as nervous is because the succession coaching plan that you put together, I was so honored that you created something specifically for me to be able to, you have large shoes that I won't ever be able to fill, but you know, I like my heels, you know, so I I think healing as a human, to be able to come back, healed ears hear differently. And so I really feel that now I have those healing in my heels, and I'm ready to walk it out with hustle and heart alongside my team.
Yeah, there we go. I love it. And I think, like we talked about before, you've got an amazing team that you've been instrumental in helping build. And we've got a really solid base of supporters. I mean, this is a community that has really embraced us and supported us for the past 41 years that we've been around serving. A lot of folks that are listening in on this are going to be excited to sit down and have coffee and lunch with you and figure out, like, what is that next step forward? How do we continue to support the work of Palmer? How can we maybe even support at an even higher level? We sent out an initial message to folks in advance of this video, just for kind of those people that have really been core to sustaining the mission of Palmer over the years, to give them that heads up. And I know for me, it's been really, really nice to receive all of those positive messages and affirmations coming back of folks saying, sad to see you go, but wow, it's been a lot of really great things that have happened in the past few years, and we're really looking forward to meet Denise Nicole and see where she's going to take things forward. So I would just say I'm happy for you that you're walking into an organization that is financially healthy, that is healthy from a human resources standpoint, from a board and governance standpoint, from a fundraising standpoint, in terms of just the recognition that we have in this community that this work is so very important. And we've been very intentional about keeping all of our relationships with folks like Workforce Central that provide us with generous contract funding positive, making sure that we're really investing in keeping those relationships in a space where there's always opportunity for growth, because they see Palmer Scholars as a provider that can really provide, because we're here doing the work. So yeah, I think you're inheriting an organization that's in a really good spot, and I'm just very excited to see where you take this organization. Maybe we come back and have the same conversation in 5 years. I might have to, who knows, maybe I'm gonna have to fly to some different location to link up with you, because you're doing train the trainer for what folks want to create Palmers around the country. Who knows? But 5 years from now, it's gonna look a whole lot different than it does now, which is much different than it did 5 years ago. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to work. I'm excited to, elevate our scholars and help them with some new confidence building trainings that we're working on in the legacy aspect. But really, I just want to say to our funders, like, Palmer Scholars is fit for you as well. You know what I mean? Because we are going to provide that return on your investment. We are going to take those funds and elevate our scholars in the best way possible, because they're our future leaders of tomorrow. And I'm excited to be a part of that. And I can't wait to meet all of our funders and those supporters and shake their hands and just thank them personally.
I like that you said, Palmer Scholars is fit for you as well as
Definitely.
a funder. And we have space to fit every penny.
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
we do.
All right. Anything last that you want to leave our supporters with as we close out this video?
Yeah, again, just thank you for their dedication to our mission, because we can't do it without our supporters. Palmer Scholars wouldn't be rooted and grounded in our community without their loyalty to us. And we just invite them to the table to come to Cocktails for Commitment, formally stand up and cheer, but a new mission, a new brand. And so I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on May 16th, 2024, Clover Park at the McGavick Center.
Absolutely. And I think in closing, let me be the weird dude to break the fourth wall really quick and just speak directly to you all. It has really been a pleasure these past 5 years to serve in the capacity of Executive Director for Palmer Scholars. I've had the opportunity to get to know many of you on a very personal level and understand your motivations for supporting this work, for partnering with us, and just why it is so important to you that Palmer Scholars continues to exist. I think that's the reason why I've had such a close relationship with so many of you supporters, is because we share that passion for this work. Obviously, that passion is not going away anywhere for me. This will not be the last time that you hear from me related to Palmer Scholars. You're also not necessarily off the hook for me hitting you up for money for Palmer Scholars, because I'm going to continue to be in the corner of this amazing organization, and I hope that you will too. So I'll just say thank you one more time, and I look forward to continuing to partner alongside you as we serve our scholars, wherever they start, whatever their path. We're committed. Thank you.